The meanings you create and the emotions you feel as a result are the twin forces you alone control. Thus, it is your ability to create meanings that determines the quality of life you live. Why am I doing what I was doing? It feels like the only option now is like, if I'm gonna do something, I have to do it because I simply love it.
Like, it's all about the process itself, falling in love with the actual journey of unfoldment.
Miracles are shifts in perception away from fear and back to love. There's no fear that cannot be dissolved, no negativity that cannot be transformed, right? And I just like want to really cement this. The problem cannot exist if the solution doesn't exist. You're able to put your attention.
Yes.
And aligning that with where you want to go.
Welcome to the Ascension Podcast. I've got an incredible guest for you today. We're going to be doing some future casting, some visioneering together, and we're going to dive into the future as we see it and as we're actually constructing it in real time to support you in this next wave of evolution of humanity that has this digital intelligence that's coming in to support us in such an extreme and profound way.
Yeah.
I have my dear brother, Matti, Miceli. Mycelium, thank you so much for coming
Thanks for
through,
having me,
bro.
brother. Yeah, I appreciate it. I'm glad to be here in this lush, amazing garden and home. Yeah.
Yeah, bro. Okay, so we spent the day today working in the garden and supporting Jason with these amazing cactus and cleaning the place up, staining the infrastructure, and it just feels really good.
Yeah.
Feels really good.
Yeah, I always love just tending to the plants and to the land. There's just something so special about feeling that connection, you know, that I feel like it's lost in a lot of ways, you know, especially with the food that we eat and things that we just get from the grocery store. It's like when you're not harvesting that yourself, there's like that connection just kind of gets lost in a lot of ways. And so it always feels special to be welcomed into a space and have the opportunity to tend to the plants and the land, especially with people that have been cultivating it for a long time, you know, like Jaybird, Flavor Bird. So yeah, it's been awesome to just feel the energy and feel so welcomed. And yeah.
Yeah, bro. It's an honor for you to be here. It's been so fun. You've got an interesting background. Do you want to speak a little bit about your robotics degree, for example, and your path that you were on and what has transpired in, you know, getting you to where you currently are?
Yeah, for sure. So, you know, I grew up in New Orleans, Louisiana, in a pretty traditional Catholic family, and then was on a pretty clear pathway. You know, I got undergrad degrees in mechanical engineering and computer science, eventually moved out to Boston, got my master's in robotics. And in that period of time, life weaved its way in to open up some new doors in the realm of music. So I actually also grew up playing piano, but for most of my life, that was just classically trained, learned some like pop covers and things like that. And throughout college, would find myself going more to it as a means of just kind of relaxing. And it's really cool looking back at and seeing like the stage that was actually set to allow for where I am right now and what's currently unfolding and weaving and all the connections that are happening, because basically, long story short, because of COVID, I was in a house. I was finishing up my undergrad, so this was right before I moved to Boston to get my master's degree. And three of my friends we all wanted to move in together, and so four of us total. And I remember like I found this awesome 5-bedroom house on Facebook. It was like a 4,000 square foot house. It had a loft and it was 2 stories. Like, and it just kind of like was surreal little find, because the thing is, if we had 5 people, the rent per person would have been like $540, you know. And I'm like, okay, like I need to jump in on this. And
yeah.
So we find this guy to come be our fifth roommate. And the guy that came in, funny enough, I actually TA'd him back in some of our other classes because I was a teaching assistant for some of the upper level like mechanical engineering classes. And so he comes in, is our fifth roommate. You know, I turn out to be like, I graded his papers, you know, but then we ended up becoming like really good friends. And he also turns out to be like one of the biggest cannabis dealers out in the area in around LSU, because this is where I was getting my undergrad degree. And because of that, and we didn't know that when he was like moving into the house with us, but people were constantly coming over to the house, and this was during COVID too. So we had, I would say there's probably a larger influx of people coming in. But part of the connections that came in was one of my friends was a music producer, and he ended up setting up a studio in the loft of our house.
Okay.
And I remember one time I came out of my room and I was working a remote tech job at the time, and I hear music coming from up there. And I go up and they have the whole recording studio set up, vocal booth, everything, and these people are paying my friend like $40 an hour to mix and master an album with them. And my mind was just instantly blown. I didn't
like, this is possible.
I didn't think that was a possibility for this reality. You know, I was just so much in my engineering degrees, but you know, what that opened up the doorway was, you know, my friend, he basically was like, hey, bring your keyboard up here. So I did. Next thing you know, I would start collaborating with him. Whenever other music artists would come in, he would actually invite me up to go play keys for them. And next thing you know, like, I'm on tracks. I'm starting to get paid actually a little bit too for some musical stuff. And it was also one of the first ways that like I really discovered how to express myself emotionally, right? And actually working with cannabis as a side effect of having my roommate, you know, being, you know, abundant in that area, actually opened up a whole new doorway to like my internal world. And what I found was just working with that medicine through music, it was like a whole new language got unlocked for the expression of emotions and just everything that I was feeling inside, and talking to other people and communicating ideas that couldn't find expression just verbally. Oof. Right? Oof. So this kind of set the groundwork. And, you know, I remember I had moved to, following this season of life, I had moved to Boston. I'm getting my master's in robotics, but this whole music thing is starting to just build up even bigger and bigger. You know, I was working and recording some artists out there too, getting some paid gigs. And around that time, I started doing deeper plant medicine work, like working with psilocybin, mushrooms, things like that, and had an experience that I would say in my life was like a definitive moment of kind of having a spiritual awakening, right? Where I kind of was like, oh, I'm on a new path now, or not on a new path, because everything leading up to that was kind of like the stage setting, right? But I didn't fully understand until that moment, like, what the stage was being set for. And then I kind of had an idea, and this opened up a whole new realm of spiritual connection, wanting to understand other traditions, and definitely pushing me further into the world with music, which ultimately, actually, following my degree, I was working with a company in Boston, ultimately led to me quitting my job and moving to Boulder, Colorado, so that I could pursue this passion more, because I felt like that was at that point in my life, I felt like it was my definitive purpose. Like, I was like, I'm here to make music and share that to the world, because, you know, like something you told me earlier was that it conveys information, like we just said, like in the way that words can't, that can connect people to access like aspects of themselves that have been completely forgotten,
Yes.
right?
Yes, or intentionally repressed.
Yeah.
The emotions, the traumas, the experiences, and the lighthearted levity and getting to physically move the body
Yeah.
and move the energy. And yes.
Yeah. So exactly. And so I was like, okay, so I felt like I'm here to make music. And, but after moving to Colorado, like at first, you know, when I got there, it was wonderful. It was like a whole new world. I'm like plugging into these bigger, like interconnected webs and communities of people that are on a similar path as me. But I was also very ungrounded. You know, I didn't know how to manage my finances. You know, I was like kind of in this place of like, I'm saying yes to the universe and starting to receive things. And, but I didn't know how to say no. I didn't know how to set boundaries. And because I grew up and like was in kind of systems that had a path laid out for me my whole life, no longer being in that, I had no idea how to give myself any structure or any systems, and ended up having to learn some really hard life lessons.
Surprise.
You know? Exactly, right?
You as well?
So,
Yeah.
I know. So, you know, like a host of like relationships falling apart, you know, getting into financial distress, and then also feeling like, well, is music really my purpose too? Like I thought it was, but having this experience of like realizing that whenever I started exploring music, I actually, because of wounding from like the previous old systems that I was plugged into, was starting now to repress the robotics and engineering side of myself.
Right.
And not allowing myself to really access those gifts anymore. And as I started doing more healing work, it was like, yeah, you have the music side, but you also have this side of yourself too that you haven't been expressing. And eventually getting to a point where I actually realized that like, because for a while I was trying to choose either one, right? But then realizing like, what if I don't have to choose one, but instead let me just be creative about how they can fuel each other,
Yeah.
right? And this came actually very gradually through the rebound period of like after going through some of those more difficult things financially, because I started working these sales jobs that started teaching me how to develop better habits and standards and like actually turn my long-term visions into values and values into standards, and then turning that into like my daily habits, right? So that my habits are fully
Boom.
aligned, right? With my long-term vision. And part of that process was learning to really play the long game. And I think when I started expanding my vision to play the long game instead of just looking in the immediate, I was like, okay, there's room actually for both of these, but I could also start creating processes and systems for them to enhance each other. And then started getting into this whole idea of, you know, I'm like, okay, what does it mean to now? I'm like, I've got the artistic side of things, the engineering, done some sales work, a lot of other aspects of self that are like now integrating together where I'm like, okay, like the word polymath has started to come up, and, you know, grateful for a lot of stewards in that space like Robert Grant, and, you know, a lot of other figures online that were being like creating these like sort of renaissance of like what's possible, Eric Godsey, you know, being big influences. And so thankful for them because it gave me permission to even open up to that possibility of like, okay, like let me just look at how these things intersect each other and how can I use them in a way that feels aligned. And actually with that has just come so much synchronicity, alignment, like heart coherence on all levels, new connections coming in, especially because those gifts are now being funneled towards a project that I started up with my long-term brother and friend, Austin, called New Earth Collective, which is around creating systems that can help usher us into decentralized ways of living, regenerative ways of living, where we're actually connected to the land. We're in more coherence with each other in community, and leveraging technology in ways that empower human connection. Because in a lot of ways, the current technology systems actually isolate us. You know, you hear
right.
like people talk about this like loneliness epidemic, and I don't think that's an inherent aspect of technology, but just the way that we're relating with it, right? And a reflection of like, you know, collective growth that we're moving through. And so now it's kind of in a position of like, how do we use these gifts to like steward better uses of technology that actually facilitate human connection, you know, and spiritual connection, because yeah, there's so much to unpack from on the like from AI to like decentralized technology. We could get into the whole land development aspect of it all and all the side effects that can have on like the human psyche as we progress over the next 5 to 10 years. Like
One thing I'd like
it's
to
such a
double
wild
click
west,
on,
you know.
for sure. One thing that's just like really standing out to me is that you had like a midlife crisis super young,
Yeah.
right? Like you just graduated college and it's like,
Yeah.
okay, I got my track, I got my trajectory. And then it's like, whoa, actually, what am I really building here? Right? What am I contributing my life force towards within this whole world, this ecosystem, this universe? And then it led you all the way to your art, your heart, your artistic expression,
Yeah.
right? And finding these depths inside, like how to relate with different parts of Selva is so cute. Meow.
Just add in a little clip in the video, cat interruption.
Have you heard of catvertising?
Catvertising?
Yeah, catvertising.
No, I haven't.
It's like advertising with cats. Anytime cats
It
are
makes
involved,
sense,
everybody
yeah.
just loves it.
I know. How could you not? I mean, look, so adorable.
She's so cute. Oh, here, it's still off a little bit. All right. Thanks for your adaptation here. So this is the journey of life, right? Is being
Yeah.
able to actually flow with whatever happens and is unfolding, and then finding that clarity within of how do I personally want to move forward. So just want to commend you first off for the courage.
Thank you.
To do what you did. And then also just the magic of having the courage to do that has now woven this web of connection, of skills, of interests and desires, right? That are now manifesting in a super materialized way.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's really cool to see the rubber meet the road, you know, so to speak, in a lot of people. And it's like, I feel like there's so many different people that are starting to own their own kind of puzzle piece, if you will, in this larger tapestry of a shared vision for what the earth could look like, you know, when we actually come into coherence with our hearts and with each other, and really take care of and appreciate the land and the resources that are provided for us and that give us these opportunities to create, and doing it from a very intentional and meaningful place, which is something that feels really more important than ever, is this idea of meaning, right? You know, Tony Robbins has this quote that was really influential on me and like very early on in my journey, which was like, the meanings you create and the emotions you feel as a result are the twin forces you alone control. Thus, it is your ability to create meanings that determines the quality of life you live.
1000%.
And I think what happens is a lot of us, we are given meanings by default from the world around us, and we just start to accept those and live with
Parents,
those.
teachers,
Yeah.
siblings, aunts, uncles, grandparents,
Yeah, and
newspapers, and social media, all of these different influences.
Yeah, we just kind of accept them, and then it's like we accept them as being our baseline reality, and don't even realize that there's other possibilities available to us that are full of just bliss, unconditional love, like literally just pure magic of connection and expression of things that like I never would have thought were possible. But the more that I surrender into this path and just find myself in daily devotion and prayer, it's like I feel like a lot of the default meanings, a lot of them are really great, right? And I think that's one of the tricky things on this path is like learning what to keep and what to let go of.
Yes.
And it looks different for everyone, right? But the more that I pray and the more I pray about and ask for miracles, which is something that like I would love to touch on, is the more like I find myself just becoming more of who I am, you know, and then these possibilities of life just kind of naturally blossom and open up.
Yes.
But something like that I want to talk about just with meaning, though, that just feels really important right now with AI, right? I think there's a lot of fear around, okay, like AI is going to take our jobs. It's going to start doing a lot of what we're really good at. And like even on the creative side, you know, I think for a while, like it was like there was this idea of like, okay, AI is just going to take like our desk jobs and stuff and like do a lot of the data management, which honestly is going to be great, right?
Right.
But there's also like the aspect of it. Well, now it's making music.
Yeah, when Midjourney came out, I was like, you gotta be kidding.
Yeah.
What? Like, I thought art was gonna be the last domain touched.
Right, but it's not. You know, it's actually one of the first.
Right.
Right, and so that leaves us asking the question of like, well then like, why am I doing what I'm doing? Right, and because of that, all of the default meanings no longer have a space to exist. Because AI is just going to be doing, so now we have to like collectively go inward and ask ourselves these questions, which is like, why am I doing what I was doing? And I'm speaking from experience because part of the learning lessons of when I went to go work on music after I quit my job is like, I felt like it was my purpose. I found a lot of expression there, but I was also projecting into that a lot of needing validation, comparison, wanting to be seen, needing to like be on a stage,
right?
You know, where everyone can see me. And it's not about like any like an unworthiness on the part of any individual like wanting to be on a stage. Like I think we all deserve to have our own stage to express, right? But it's also that was gradually becoming like the top motivator, and I didn't even realize it for like why I was doing what I was doing. It wasn't even about the mission anymore. It became consumed by like, I need to be seen and I need to be validated, but now I also need to make money and I need to prove myself, you know, especially like when you're in the early 20s, you know, it's like you're out in the world, you kind of want to like, you know, show your parents, show your society, like this is what I made of, like look at what I can do,
right?
You know, and so needing all this validation, and thankfully again, just with the life lessons, working with plant medicine, like all of those subconscious drivers revealed themselves to me, right? And so I was able to like work through them, and you know, I'm not saying perfect by any means, but like really let go of a lot of that from the driver's seat, right? And just like witness it, see it, and then see like, well, why did I need that validation, right?
Why did you?
Why did I? And it's because I felt lonely. It's like I didn't feel connected inside. I felt like I was doing everything alone, you know, and I wasn't connected fully to source, to God, you know, or however you want to talk about, you know, the divine or the source of everything. And so what I feel is this possibility though with AI is now that it's going to be doing a lot of what we do, even on the artistic side, and it can do it better. It feels like the only option now is like, if I'm going to do something, I have to do it because I simply love it.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
It's like it's for the purest expression of that act and the connection and like the actual experience of it
Yes.
versus doing it for some sort of societal position, some sort of need for validation, or
Or even any sort of outcome.
right.
Like it's all about the process itself, falling in love with the
Ooh.
actual journey of unfoldment.
Yes, process. That's such a big word. I mean, again, tying to working on the garden right earlier today.
Right.
One of the cool things is just that I've feel like has allowed me to really up level in this spiritual journey has just becoming way more process oriented. You know, it's like, you know, before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water.
That's right.
And then it's like, and that's what, like, for me, like, that's like the process, right? And so when you do that too, it's like you become less susceptible to like a lot of the unconscious motives that are driving you, or you actually in the process of becoming process oriented, it actually illuminates those things.
That's right.
Because it's then
Process is flow.
yeah.
So a flow state is pushing our
Exactly.
limits. Like, what
Yeah.
is it that I actually believe that I'm capable of? It's like riding that edge. You know, snowboarding for me is a perfect example, right? 45 miles an hour, bombing down the mountain, just like every little
Yeah.
nuance of energy where it gets shifted matters, especially when there's high consequence outcomes like trees in the environment or rocks, boulders, you know, like this is a dynamic way of living and realizing that we're surfing through life constantly. That is the process. And the process is the way, because time does not even exist, right?
Yeah,
it's a
exactly.
figment of my reality, the way that I process my journey. Because I don't know about you, I mean, going to the DMV, time certainly feels a little different than,
Yeah,
you know, snowboarding down the mountain.
Yeah, it does. It does. But then it's like, okay, I'm like, but how can I still learn to be blissful while I'm at the DMV,
Bam.
right? How can I learn to operate and like emanate from like the inside out,
Yes.
you know? And it's like those I find like are the experiences that I'm becoming like more and more and more grateful for on a day-to-day basis. And because it's like getting to this place where almost like the circumstances don't matter.
Right.
They're beautiful, and it's a weird specific experiences and actually see all the beauty that they have to offer, right? So that's been I'm very grateful for life, for guiding the pathway to just even being able to become the man that can live in that way, right? And this is something that, you know, for the people watching this, I feel like a lot of times we don't think it's possible to like fully live from the inside out. Like it's like this kind of, it's this ideal like ideology, but we never allow ourselves to actually realize it. 'Cause
Right.
There's this like sense of unworthiness, or there's a lot of things that can be blocking it. But going back onto the topic of miracles, which is something that I like, has been really influential in being able to learn to live from the inside out, and thus be able to be more fearless in what I'm doing and become more myself. There's this book called Course in Miracles, right? And there's also another book called A Return to Love, which is written based off of that. So A Course in Miracles is actually a channeled text, right? And the idea that it talks about is that it redefines the word miracle to simply be shifts in perception, right? In the way that we see the world, right? Or see our reality. And it's more specifically shifts in perception away from fear and back to love, And all it really says is that whenever those shifts in perception happen, then all of like the grand acts that we think of as like miracles, like the walking on the water or all these things, like, well, those are natural expressions of love. So the real miracle is just simply the return to love. Right? And one of the cool things that it talks about is that miracles are freely given to anyone that asks for them. And there's no order of difficulty of miracles either. There's no size, bigger or smaller. They just are. And all you need to do is ask for them. And if you ask and you're open, then all the shifts in perception that you need in order to start living from the inside out, start being blissful from the inside out, and like connect to God, connect to the people around you, and just live a fulfilling life will be revealed. And it just takes a little bit of patience and just continuing to walk the path and allowing and creating some more and more space for those new perspectives to come in. And that has by far been the biggest game changer in my life. And it's now like sitting at the bedrock of my belief systems. Because, I think we all, in a lot of ways, develop our own codex, our own set of belief systems that we operate in the world. And what I realize is like, okay, so it's like miracles are shifts in perception away from fear and back to love. There's no fear that cannot be dissolved. There's no, what's the word? No negativity that cannot be transformed, right? I realized like, if I just allow that to take its spot as the bedrock, now like any other beliefs downstream from that are subject to be transformed. And like, what a relief.
Yeah.
Like, what a relief.
Huge.
You mean I don't have to do this thing on my own?
That's right.
And it's like, in those shifts, they all come in so many different ways. I mean, sometimes it's like you just have an insight, but sometimes it's a person, like you, or it's community, or it's just a little page in a book, and it just gives you exactly what you need to hear at the right time. When I learned to trust that and open up to that, it's like, it just allows me to take off the weight off my shoulders. Because I feel like, especially a lot of people on this path, we all have such big hearts and like really want to see the world come together and see these potentials and possibilities, and you progress and start to want to take more responsibility to bringing that to life. But along the way, it's like then you start carrying the weight of the world, drags you down, right? And then you also have just like the weight of like your family traumas and your lineage, and it's just like this kind of perspective shift has allowed me to take the weights off. It's like, again, like the paradoxical nature of everything. It's like I can actually carry more weight now.
That's right.
You know what I mean? It's because
it's like there's a hot air balloon now attached to the back. Like instead of the backpack that's like weighing down and like pulling off center, and like all of these projections that I've taken on, that I've taken ownership of.
Yeah.
Right? If somebody said something to me at 6 years old and it stuck with me until now, that's my responsibility for allowing that seed to be constantly looked at over and over. And one of the things that is coming up for me big time in this conversation that I'd love to bring in is family.
Ooh.
Blood family.
Yeah.
Right? Our chosen family, our blood families. And both you and I have gotten to spend quality time with our families over this end of the year, holiday time, right? And for me, it was so incredible because this is the deepest that I've been able to connect with my mom, my stepdad, my dad, my stepmom, my siblings, like the kind of relating that was available, because I realized I don't want them to be different. I spent my whole life wanting everybody to be different.
Dude. Yeah.
Like my way must be right. That's why it's coming through. And it's like, no, that's not the case. The more that I can actually just drop in to who I am at my heart center, right, and emanate from the inside out the way that you're describing, life unfolds automagically. And the
I love that. Yeah.
perspectives, yes, the aperture of life opens. So the more that I'm open to perspectives, the more that I can allow anybody's perspective in, take it, feel it. Does this resonate with me? Does this ring true? And if not, be curious. Right? Not have to defend a position, but actually be curious and inquire, right?
Yeah.
Because, like, how is it that you've come up with your beliefs?
Yeah. Yeah, and sometimes there's a lot of wisdom inside of it, you know, and that's something I've learned definitely not to take for granted anymore.
For
So
sure.
I think, you know, early on for me, especially like started working with plant medicine, getting all these like rapid downloads about the nature of reality, starting to like reshift and then being like, that's the way, you know, and I mean, it's a way, and it's like, in that moment, it's the way for me, right? But then finding where like, it's such a funny thing, like when, it's like you develop a new belief system that sets you free from your old one, but then you get trapped into a new one.
Golden handcuffs.
You know, and man, so many threads there, because this is like, you know, we were talking earlier about this idea of living agreements, and there's so many points that I want to touch on here, which is like especially when it comes to family, it's like, yeah, just being so amazed that the more that I open up to like actually listen and just allow and create a space for people to just be who they are as they are, the amount of wisdom that comes from is absurd. And then the more we're actually able to have a conversation and like they can hear what I'm saying as well, right? Say it's like going back to
in that order, though. You're hitting
Yeah.
on such an important point. It's listening from the heart first. We have 2 ears,
Right.
1 mouth. That's probably a good ratio.
I love that. Yeah. It is. It's such I've actually never thought about that, you know, or not. I feel like I've heard it before, but it's such a valid point of just I feel like without fail, every time that I've actually opened up to listen, no matter where it was, it could be with a person, it could be out in nature, it could just be silent, sitting in my room, something beautiful emerges. You know, some sort of insight, something that I needed, something that is so profound, like in that it somehow serves everybody. That is the magic. That's the miracle, dude. It's like you open
Yes.
up but that's how life is, because we live in such like this perfect, energetic soup reality, however you want to, quantum field that is just so divinely intelligent, that just is in, because it is everything, and it's like this it's like already the resonance is shared, so that the only thing that can emerge whenever that space actually opens up is the solution or the wisdom or the insight, and that's been
Universal truth.
Yeah. Yeah, dude, it's been so powerful, and I mean, that's, again, and this is like why I love the concept of miracles, is like, it's like a lot of times these belief systems would come in and then like I'd get fixed in them, but miracles like almost was like, it was a belief system that allowed for change to happen. Allowed for
Y'all
living
hearing this?
agreements to happen. You know what I mean? And this is the thing. And sometimes I have to let go of that word too, because then like what happens is like I'll pray for like a miracle or something, and then something happens, and then I develop expectations for how it's supposed to look. And then I'm like, oh shoot, I'm developing it. Let me take a step away And I think this is one of the beautiful things of like now having these melting pots of traditions available to us is like we can start to, like for me the word miracle might resonate, right? And it means something and like I'm able to internalize it, but like for someone else that might be a different word.
For sure.
Right? Or
Even
it
the
could be a
word
different
God.
Yeah.
For example, I had such a like distaste around the concept of God as it was articulated to me, and I felt like was being pushed, like shoulded upon me.
Yeah.
And so it's taken this whole journey of like separating in order to open up and find clarity to really listen. Like you're saying, listen and feel. We have these 5 tangible senses and we have an infinite amount of others, right?
Yeah.
That's connected through our not nervous system, our
Intelligence system.
Yeah.
There we go.
because it's connected to exactly what you said. Everything is interconnected and interwoven, even within the vacuum of space. Nassim Haramein is showing through his physics, his math, that there's actually fluid dynamics even in the vacuum. So even what we perceive as empty is actually not empty. And if
Yeah.
water holds the image and the energy of whatever it is that's last acted upon it, then that makes sense that we live in this like fluid system, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, and then the boundaries dissolve, you know, and there's so many like little threads there. Like even just talking about like the intelligence system, like being, and then being the meanings that we create, right?
Yes.
And like there's these subconscious like overlaps between words and how we describe things that I think we don't realize fully, you know, like because I say nervous system but then I also think of nervous and I'm like nervousness, but when I redefine it, say intelligence system, I'm like, oh. And so it's like, and then again it's like why miracles is like that's like a meaning that I can create that serves me and that like connects me to the higher power. And it's like I think you know, another big example of that that's more relevant than ever before is definitely artificial intelligence too, which is like, like we call it artificial, but in a lot of ways, for me, it feels more like collective intelligence,
Yes.
right? It's because what it is it's taking all of like our collective information that has been pulled into this like interconnected web and then like codifying it and
Yeah.
learning from it and then basically reflecting that back out to us.
Right. Synthesizing, and then our question dictates what comes through, which is a call and response game, which is actually also the truth of the universe as I experience it currently. So as we're creating these digital infrastructures that are exponentiating, right? Digital mind, ones and zeros, heart, analog, interconnectedness. My heart knows that we're not actually separate beings, right? But my mind knows that we actually are within this dimension, right? Newtonian physics applies and quantum physics applies.
Right.
So as our, how did you say it? The C? For the community? Was it community intelligence?
Collective intelligence?
Collective intelligence.
Yeah.
Dude, that's brilliant. The collective intelligence is being a giant mirror for us to experience even more miracles.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And I think it shouldn't be understated the, like, again, this is like the paradox of like responsibility where it's like, I don't want to put weight on people's shoulders, but like also acknowledging like, hey, like, you know, when we create this and name this technology artificial intelligence, we're creating a reality where it's artificial.
Right.
Right. And then in that kind of hits back to this deeper wounding of like going back to the separation, right? Because that's kind of like what artificial for me like really indicates. It's like this something that's like separate.
Right. Artificial
other.
flavoring.
Yeah.
What is that?
Yeah, exactly. And so it's like we have this opportunity to steward this technology because it's still so new, and in a lot of ways it's like because it's like this new mirror, it almost feels like, you know, all of the light that we have as in our human potential and all of the shadow, it just feels like it can just amplify all of that, right?
Exactly.
And so it almost feels like more important now than ever before, like as like for each of us as individuals to like take responsibility and radical ownership of our individual realities and our perceptions and the way that we're creating meanings in the world.
Yes.
Because and I feel like in AI, like in a way it's going to drive our evolution into that in a lot of ways, and like drive this almost refinement process for a lot of, I'd say, wisdoms and ideas that I feel like have been bubbling up. And this is just my take, right? So for anybody listening to this, like obviously feel free to take what's helpful and let go of the rest. But
And add your comments.
And
add
exactly,
your feedback.
yeah.
What's your perspective
like, what do you
here?
think of that? Yeah, like how can we, because this is a collective growing, right? This is like, we're all in this together.
Yes.
And it's this idea of something that I realized along my way, and was kind of a big miracle, and it was really difficult, right? Because I had to learn some things like the hard way, was whenever I had my spiritual awakening and started to feel this interconnectedness with everything, I started saying yes to life
Yep.
a lot. And just allowing
Like Jim Carrey.
everything. Yeah, I was like the yes man. And it's like that. I remember I was like watching that movie. I'm like, this is it.
Yes.
Like this is how it is. Like, yeah, I've got, okay. And I would put that under this like lens of like, I'm trusting the universe.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Which I have full trust in the universe and in this like divine plan and what's unfolding. But at the same time, also acknowledging like we all have our own little currents of energy that we're each individually creating.
That's right.
Right? From this like grand tributary of life. And when I was saying yes, I was really like also just getting pulled into what I thought was like the universe, which in a way it still is, but like I was just drifting amongst like other people's visions.
Right.
Right. And starting to lose a sense of agency over my own life. And so then it begs this question of like, okay, like what does this co-creation look like? Because everyone's on different stages in their journey and experiencing different things. And I'm like, eventually get to a point where it's like, okay, I've experienced this theme. That was great, but I don't want to experience this theme anymore.
Right.
So
major notes, minor notes.
So now I need to start saying no, right?
Right.
And something we talked about was like, I was like, okay, like I can receive new things in my reality to the extent to which I can say yes, but I can also design my reality to the extent to which I can say no, right? And like, those are like the ones and zeros that I use.
Do you want to run that back real quick?
Yeah, I can. So I can receive new experiences and new ideas to the extent to which I can say yes. And I can design my life and my vision and my path to the extent to which I can say no. This is important because so many people will like, I say this, when I say people, I'm just talking about really social media. I feel like there's a lot of exposure towards just like binary ways of like, it's like you say yes to everything or like, no, you have to learn how to say no. And like, sometimes I think it's helpful like in some seasons, like you just kind of have to do it so you can learn and practice it. But ultimately it's like, you want to end up in that space of like balance of like, okay, like let me take it into my own realm of responsibility and ownership of like, okay, like every single yes and no, like, can I just be intentional with that? And like,
yes,
understand how that's like projecting forward into time, right? Because it's like we're writing out these like ones and zeros. You know, every time I say yes, it's like a one. Every time I say a zero, it's a no. And if you just say yes and you just get all these ones, like you're gonna have this unbalanced reality. And same with no. And that looks different for everyone. And then we get to merge our codes together too in these like really unique ways. So
I just feel the yin and yang, dog. It
Yeah,
just keeps
I
coming
know.
through. You know, I keep talking about it. It's just so masterful in its simplicity.
right.
In its elegance.
Yeah.
Like within the dark, there is light. Within the light, there is dark. It's constantly moving, right? The pathway forward is the middle way, which is flexible, which leads to the whole. So if I can hold two opposites, two poles, then I can be whole. So holding them, I can be whole and I can feel all of that energy. So something that used to trigger me might go to here and I'm fine.
Yeah.
But if it goes past what I can hold, then it triggers, right? Which is an alert system through the intelligence system of what are the beliefs right now? Are there actual threats? Or is this a perception of reality, right? Because the paradox of always being an infinite soul and knowing that our soul is not this physical body, while paradoxically having this physical life in this form and wanting to maximize and experience all the different flavors and textures and like all the sensations, the emotions, everything that this life holds. So the more that we hold both paradoxes simultaneously, I feel like that's how we get to wisdom.
I feel like there's a quote somebody said of like your wisdom, or it's something about like the extent to which you're able to hold conflicting.
Yeah, I think it was
Ideas.
Einstein or one of those. It's like that was mapped as intelligence, but to me it feels
Right.
like wisdom because it's not intellect, it's heart-elect, right? Like our heart
Yeah.
actually has neurons. We were talking about this earlier. So does our gut,
Yeah.
right? And so these gut feelings that we get, it's like even if I'm living under a paradigm that mind is everything, well, there's truth of mind inside our gut and inside our hearts as well. So why not relate with the heart and with the mind with the same level of clarity as just this physical mind?
And it's like all these ideologies, it's like even growing to think of them as like not even in competition with each other,
Yes.
but just applicable at different times in different circumstances and different settings.
Yes, unique intelligences that
Yeah.
are gifted to us.
Yeah.
Like a gut feeling, it's so visceral. It's like,
know.
whoa, and it's at the lower energy centers, more connected with our roots, our physical, tangible experience of life, our health and wellness, our safety, right? Our sexual exploration, like all of these different energies are those lower, baser energies. And then moving up to the heart, of course, it's right in the middle, you know? And of course.
Yeah. The Andean cross.
Yes.
It's amazing.
The Chicana, this has been blowing my mind recently, y'all. This is huge. Can I go into it slightly?
Please do. Yeah.
Okay.
It's so on topic, you know?
So the way the yin and the yang is so simple and really embodies energy of polarity, right? Positive and negative, dark and light, and how it's constantly in motion and moving, and a way of navigating. It feels super practical. So with the Chicana, this is the Andean cross. So through the Quechua perspective, these are, there's so much, dude. It's in balance. There's 4 points. So north, south, east, west, right? We have 12 points that represents each month. So we're going around the calendar. As we go here to these different elements, there's earth, air, fire, water. In the middle, the circle, the sphere, the empty, the void, the feminine, right? Which is the ether, which is that limitlessness. It's undefinable and inquantifiable, and yet we all enter through a womb. So it's like our seed of consciousness, our seed physically goes into the darkness, like our seeds go into the soil. Like this is how all of life functions as far as I've been able to deduce.
Right.
Yes.
In my exploration of life, yeah.
Totally, and
It's
feel
just
into the energy. It's fully in balance. It's representing the seasons of life as we go through the 4 seasons: summer, fall, winter, spring, constantly in rotation, constantly in movement. I mean, there's so much here.
I know. And I just love that it has the void, like the womb space in the center of the cross too. Cause I feel like sometimes that gets left out, you know, in a lot, or like in some, you know, in like more of like a Christian tradition or something, you just get like the physical, like the up and down, but there's the center point, the void in the middle is such a huge shift and like an opening into reality and into the feeling and into the heart. It's like connecting to that divine mother, and it's really cool too, like something that, again, this just like has been so thematic recently in this, is just like exploring, like, you know, on this topic of the yin and the yang, like seeing like where there just is no boundary between the two, actually, and like actually like feeling those moments and like those spaces where like they actually legit like converge and like flip on themselves, like it is one of my favorite things just on this, like being in this journey. Like one, you know, we're talking about is like a lot of the ways we've like as a society like codified masculine versus feminine is like we'll have masculine as kind of being like it holds the container, right, the space, and then the feminine can be like the waters that like flow through the space,
Right.
And so in that scenario, it's like the masculine's like holding the feminine, right? But then it's like you also can just look at nature, right? And I think about the womb as being like this infinite container. It's like this infinite void space, right, that is now containing and holding the seed inside of it,
Right.
which is like representing the masculine entering into the feminine container, right? It's like you're putting the seed inside of the soil and the earth, and then like just allowing that flip to happen and realizing like, dang, like, okay, like, and then this is where like the whole indeterminacy you're talking about with like the quantum particles, and it's there, because just seeing like, wow, like they actually are, like the masculine is the feminine, like in utter totality and like fully and completely, you know, like they're fully just inseparate from each other. And really it's like they encode each other too, which has been, you know, just another little kind of pathway we can explore in this conversation, is just like feeling how everything encodes each other. Like that has been probably one of the most powerful perspective shifts that I have felt into recently, of again, like kind of allowing this like weight to come off my shoulder, is like the masculine encodes the feminine encodes the masculine, but in this degree of like other aspects or kind of ideas, it's every problem encodes the solution.
Ooh.
Right? And that means the problem, and I just like want to really cement this, the problem cannot exist if the solution doesn't exist. So if you have a problem, the solution has to exist.
Just like if you have a desire, that means it's actually real for you. It's
Yes.
alive within the universe, which is going back to the miracles.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's like, it's almost like that's like the mechanism through which, because it's ingrained in literally the fabric of our reality, and like how all this stuff vibrates, and like it's hard to even put into words, because it's like got this like whole fractalized like self-contained nature and oneness and all, like, you know, I could write poems about it all day, you know, and not even scratch the surface, because it's just so beyond words. But it's not only like in the fact that the problem exists, that the solution has to exist, but they encode each other, meaning that the information that leads to the solution is already inside of the problem.
And this goes back to, I think it was Einstein, but talked about we can't solve a problem from the same perspective in which it was created. So that simple shift of just one, you know, nudge outside gives awareness of the whole, which then reveals
Right.
the solution.
Yeah. Yeah. It's it's like the Ouroboros, man. You know?
Which is the snake that's eating its own tail.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's really cool, all these images that kind of paint these pictures for...
Okay, so do you want to tap into LifeOS?
Oh, dude.
Take us on a journey of LifeOS,
Let's talk about LifeOS, Miracle Mind, New Earth Collective, some of these things that we're building. This is fun. It's so yeah, guys, along my journey, right, I kind of described that, I faced a lot of difficulties along the way. And part of that was, saying yes to everything and then not saying no to like almost nothing.
Been there.
And then swinging the other way around. But also like...
Which, by the way, I do encourage that behavior. Like,
Yeah.
experience what it feels like to just say yes to everything that feels aligned.
Totally.
In order to come to that clarity to find the balance. At least if your propensity is to say no without any sort of like soul activation, like I feel an urge to do something, I feel inspired to take an action, but I cloud myself with no.
Yeah.
Right? Then I encourage the opposite. But maybe if you're already doing a whole lot of yeses, try out a couple no's.
Yeah.
Right? See how that feels in the system so that we can become whole.
Yeah. And it's like something that I'm really learning now is like, for a while, man, I was praying like I want, to foster like better discernment, like I want to make decisions that are in fullest alignment of like my will with the will of God in the way that like I interpret God, right? And I say that just because, like you said earlier, it's like there's those kind of... It can also, for some people, the way that you define that word can be different. And it took me, I have my own
And
definition.
everybody
Like for
actually
me,
has their own definition.
I know. It's like when I say that,
with every
it's
word.
like, yeah, with every single word. That's some... Man, I remember the first time that I realized that, I was like, oh, this is why feeling is important.
Yes. And why visioning is important and going with the longer term perspective with the LifeOS strategy.
Yeah. So for the viewers out there, LifeOS stands for Life Operating System. And this is something you can actually build this for yourself. Like, it doesn't have to be a tech thing. It's a system is in a process. It's just a way of being that's been kind of defined, if we're going to simplify it. So if you define certain like processes for yourself and how you interact with the world, like that can be your life operating system. In fact, like we all have it actually. We already all have our own systems.
That's right.
We already have our own operating systems.
How aware of my operating system am I?
Exactly.
At any given moment. It's not static, it's living.
Right. Yeah, and what I like about the idea, though, of creating your own life operating system is this is the moment where you really get to choose your preferred way of being in your reality. And it creates this invitation to start really living intentionally. And when you do that, I mean, at first it's going to be really difficult because you're having to override your current operating system, right? And you might find yourself like in this iterative process where you're like, but there's actually current things that I like about my own current operating system that intellectually, like I'm trying to make my own life operating system intellectually, but sometimes that also doesn't work out either because It's just from the mind. So it's like you have to find this balance and like start weaving it, but it's a good exercise to do. And this is, again, something that's really created a lot of growth in my life was I created a system that was like all in one that allowed me to view all the different aspects of my life as parts of a whole instead of separate. And the reason this is important is because by default, most people will think of their individual lives or the individual domains, areas of their lives in isolated circumstances and not necessarily consider how they're affecting the whole. And when I say area or domain, I'm referring to habits, finances, projects, health and fitness, relationships, your spiritual connection, and you can define out as many life domains as you want, right? But those are like kind of the basic ones for me. And so what I've kind of started to do that allowed me to step into more of this like process way of being and stop necessarily burning out all the time and yo-yoing was go through this practice of one, like creating like actual tangible systems for each of these, but then it's like, how do I actually seed all of these together? Like, what do I want my financial system to run off of? Like, what's actually guiding that? What's actually guiding my habits, right? And what's actually guiding my projects? And man, I've been chasing these goals for a while, but I can't do it sustainably. So like, how do I do this sustainably? How do I play the long game? And well, so this leads to some keys, which is realizing like, oh, okay, can I structure my way of being so that my goals and my visions are byproducts of my habits?
Yeah.
And that's a huge key that has just kind of shifted everything in my life. And this is where the real spiritual work comes in, is because now it's like, you're no longer on like the luster and shininess like of your visions aren't like they're great, right? But a lot of times for me, like I see those and I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna go do it, and then boom, I'm not locked in for the long haul. And that's why chopping wood, carrying water is so important, is because then you learn how to really embody the process that's actually going to allow you to bring your visions to life, because chances are they take much longer than you might actually think, right? Because especially if you want them to grow organically, right? Which is such a hard thing sometimes, especially with tech. We just want everything like instantaneous. It's like I can just go get everything right away. But it's like oak trees take decades to grow,
Yeah.
And so the life operating system is built off of this perspective of, let me start out by vision casting, just taking time to be slow and intentional and visualize, like, what do I want my life to look like in 50 years? Like, what do I want the legacy to look like?
How many
Right?
years?
50.
50.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So when's the last time that you thought about life through the lens of 50 years out, half a century into the future? I hear 5 years and that feels like, oh, so expansive. 10 years?
Yeah.
But bro, I hadn't even heard anybody bring to me the idea of 50 years until
Yeah.
last night when you dropped that, and I'm like, this is a super code.
Yeah, and it's not the easiest thing to do, right? Like so kind of to finish up the process, because again, it's like an iterative thing. Like you can redo this like every season or every year maybe. Is let me start out with like, what do I want my 50-year goal to look like, or my vision? Like what kind of life, what kind of family do I want to have? Where do I want to live? Then let me whittle that down to 25, 20 years, 10 years, 5 years, 3 years, 1 year, 3 months, 1 month. Okay. And then it's basically what you're doing is like in that process, you're actually taking the full potential, like this nebulous thing, and crystallizing it, right? Crystallizing, Christos.
Where's a crystal?
And but
There you
the
go.
key is like whenever you do that, you now actually have a method to inform what your daily habits are. And this is important because a lot of people will like hear habits from other people or from like successful people online and copy them, which is not a bad place to start. Like I think you got to be in the experimentation
for
phase
sure.
for a while to see like what works for you. But after you experiment for a while, then it's like, you ask yourself, how do I actually structure my habits so that my goals are byproducts of them, so that I can play this for the long game? So then, and And for me, that just started out like with thinking, like, let me just challenge myself to think 50 years into the future and just see what that's like. And I mean, who knows, like, what'll actually happen? But you know, a great teacher of mine, I mean, he online, you know, just a great influence. His name's David Bayer. Would talk about like how a lot of times the plan is just kind of allows you to set sail.
Yeah,
you know, and then you kind of like
exactly.
let life
What do you think a
guide
business
you,
plan
right?
is?
Exactly. It's just something to set sail, right?
Yeah.
But like how important that is, and then when you start to integrate that in with your own codex that informs how you say yes and no on a daily basis and a moment-to-moment basis, well, then you can actually weave this reality into it. You can actually weave your reality in such a way that you're simultaneously both opening up to new experiences, but have the groundedness and clarity to be able to say no so that you can still have agency and design over where the ship is going and really direct the ship. And in that you create a lot of sovereignty. And this is why the LifeOS is important, is because so sovereignty, people talk about, or it gets thrown out a lot, right? For me, though, it's like, or what I want to add to the puzzle is one of the elements of sovereignty, in order to truly be sovereign, comes from like mastering where you're able to put your attention.
Yes.
And aligning that with where you want to go, right? Because if your attention is constantly being like siphoned or being held up by a certain addiction, or you're constantly giving it away to other people, right? Unintentionally, again, there's no right or wrong here. It's all about circumstances, setting, and like moment to moment decisions. But that's where true sovereignty comes in, because then you're able to actually have agency. Because sovereignty is kind of almost like freedom plus agency. In a lot of ways is what it feels like. Because you could have, like, I can have the freedom to do whatever I want, but if I can't do it, like if I'm not capable of actually I'm not competent, am I really sovereign? Like, to be able to do, so it's like almost, it's like the coupling of those two things together. And in order for us to have collective sovereignty, it starts with individual sovereignty, which that starts with taking full accountability of understanding where your attention's going on a moment-to-moment basis. And the good news is you can create systems that make it habitual. And eventually you won't have to think about it. And there's also this whole body of infinite divine love intelligence permeating throughout our entire reality that would love nothing more than to guide you into the place where you can be your fully most embodied and empowered and sovereign self. Because what I learned about trusting the universe and trusting God was not that it was about letting them make the decisions for me. And sometimes it is. Again, I want to refrain from like the all or nothing here. But so much of what I needed to learn from trusting the universe was like that, like, hey, like, you have the ability inside of you to choose and create your own reality.
That's right.
And like, in this, again, this paradoxical way, because like, it's like I'm trying to like tune into like what I think, you know, is supposed to happen in my reality, like with my purpose, and feel into it, and so then, and like try to receive that guidance versus making an autonomous choice. Which, like, the funny thing is, like, because that potential exists, but it's like when I actually fully realize and make that autonomous choice for myself, it's like I do align into that plan that was written out for me.
Which is the paradox of free will.
Right?
Because absolutely we have free will, I believe, within this reality, and that's the sovereignty, the choice of where do I put my focus and attention, right? Focus, follow one course until success.
Ooh.
Right? Just like fear, false evidence appearing real. As soon as I realize it's false, then I can actually jump out and I can find, truth,
Yeah.
right, at a deeper layer. This is so powerful, and it's so interesting because co-creation is what I've distilled at this point, is the basis of this reality. There is that God force, right? That universal design, that intelligence, that natural order to everything. And there's a soul print. There's a way that my soul came into this world, like human design, gene keys, right?
Right.
Plug in your birth date, your birth time, birth location, and all of a sudden get a blueprint that most people that I've talked to have been like deeply, profoundly impacted by.
Right.
Like over 80% alignment with, the way that their energy body works. And so,
Guys,
what's up, bro? We're doing a podcast right now.
is homeboy here?
Yeah, feel free and go in. Yeah, and so this co-creative aspect is so empowering because it allows me to take the weight off of my shoulders, thinking and feeling that I have to do everything, right? The weight of the world, and knowing that every decision, every point of energy and focus, every interaction that I have within consciousness has an enormous ripple effect, infinite ripples. So simultaneously, nothing matters in the sense that everything is universally and divinely in balance and harmony, and yet everything matters.
Right.
Right? So then where I choose to put my attention and focus and how I'm relating to all people, all life, all experiences, all of reality is my sovereign choice. So that's why co-creation to me feels so fitting.
Yeah. Yeah, and exactly, and it was so, you just touched on something really profound, because when I had my awakening, I was like, I had this like whole out of body experience. Saw a lot of different cool things, spiraling galaxies, aliens. I saw a dude doing a fire dance on top of a mountain, and a whole bunch of like a myriad of things. Like I just like, and I had this whole out of body experience. And when I came back to my body, like, there was just one sentence implanted in my brain, which was like, nothing matters. But it didn't feel like I didn't have this like existential dread. It's like what I knew is like we create what matters. In a lot of ways, that's kind of what love is.
Right.
Love is like what gives like the mattering to the things that don't matter, because we love it. It's something that like, it's just like, I just love the feeling and the beingness of being alive. Like, just inherent in beingness is love. Otherwise, beingness wouldn't be. Like,
Chew on that one for a bit.
So it's like our fundamental reality is literally love. Fun.
Fundamental. Fun is the key, bro.
So great. Man, but it's like in bridging the whole idea of like there's a plan laid out for us and our free will. Like something that I kind of realized is like, because it's like we're also not separate from the aspects of ourselves that are timeless, right? And so it's like our timeless aspect of ourself, that's you, and made a choice. Or made a choice is still limited because it's beyond time, so it just is. But like the plan, so to speak, that's like we are laid out for us is decided and chosen by none other than ourselves. So it's like the free will of our highest self.
That's a pretty big assumption right there. Or statement. A statement of a living belief.
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of my own codex. Thank you for...
I agree. And I was just realizing, wow, that feels pretty definitive.
Right.
And it's nice to hold, like strong beliefs held loosely so the software can update in real time.
Right. Yeah, and I appreciate you for saying that. Because again, for the people watching this, like take what's helpful and let go of the rest. This is a belief that I've come to form as like, oh, it's like the plan that laid out for, because like I'm not separate from God or source. Like our will is like actually one and the same. And it's like it's like inseparable from the code of my being, and like the code of my being is also love. So it's like, why would I want to be anything else? And then when I actually make decisions from my autonomous place, like in sovereign place, it just somehow fully aligns with that in like this perfect way.
Right, because when I experience and feel the truth that you're actually another version of me,
Yeah.
I don't want to harm myself.
Yeah.
So the most selfish thing I can do is live selflessly.
Yeah.
With proper balance of yes and no's, right? Like
Exactly.
actually honoring the truth of
Right.
energy, aka inner chi,
Energy.
cultivating our
It's
inner
the
chi.
free styler master here. Fucking love you, bro.
Dude, love you, bro. Do you want to bring us home with New Earth Collective?
Yeah.
And what the vision is here.
Yeah, so I'll kind of talk to you about that, because as I was building out the LifeOS, right, one of these cool things that I was thinking about, so I wanted to turn it into an app, and like where people could actually use the, like, you know, you have like a system that, you know, I could plug in like, you know, finances, projects, things like that, and had ideas to like, it'd be cool like if I could integrate astrology into that, so I can do these things like in harmony with the seasons and like the flow of like the universal energies and whatnot. One of the cool things that I wanted to do was like create this system that actually shows the user like insights on how all of these different aspects of self interact with each other. And so it was like, how do we integrate all of these so you can actually view them and see that how like changing one habit has this ripple effect on your finances and on your health, or changing this like one thing in your like your workout or whatnot has a ripple effect on the other areas of your life, like your relationships and vice versa. And like, so you can kind of see the patterns and like visualize them. And so in that, I started building these like integration systems, like where I started thinking of like the different areas of the life, like roots of a tree, right? And then like my mission, vision, values would be the seed, and like the thing that pulls it all together is like the integration system, which is like the trunk of the tree, and it's like always referenced again, versus like the mission, vision, values. And well, that in the process of building that technology, I was showing it to my friend Austin, and we had this.
Austin Terry, shout out, epic
What's
human.
up, Austin Terry? Love you, brother.
Love you,
we're
bro.
building. So we're building this thing called New Earth Collective, and it's part event production, but part online platform, so that we can actually harness the energy that and all the wonderful magic and synchronicities from these like in-person events, you know,
Yes.
and actualize them and crystallize them to then create even more in-person human connection. So the idea though behind that whole integration system with the LifeOS would be like, wow, this would be really cool to use that to connect people online in intentional ways. And it's like talking about like the blueprints, like the gene keys, human design, astrology, you know, so something I've been playing around with is like these things can actually, like your signs can be mapped to musical notes.
Yeah.
Right? And so then you can create harmonic connections based off of music theory, right?
Bro.
And this is where, again, this is where the musical path intertwines with the spiritual path, intertwines with the engineering, and how like all these things, when I thought they weren't perfect and shit was really difficult, they're all like coalescing in this way that I never imagined, which is like, oh, so this, like you could create this system that like where now I could actually listen to the harmonies of like, you know, my full energetic blueprint, but also how that connects with your energetic blueprint or with other people inside of a community.
Bro, this
Right?
is straight up magic right here. This is like soul truth resonance kind of chords, because I realized like, oh, we're all in this grand symphony
Right.
together.
Yeah.
Right? But then the whole goal is, how do I find my musicality? What note am I actually bringing, right, to add to the symphony and the harmony? And here
Right.
you come, boom.
can actually listen to it, you know? And so it's cool because like I'm designing this fun little widget where like you can actually play, like press it and it'll make it sound like a chord, and you can listen to like the symphony that like comes together of different people. And then like, you know, sometimes you get some tension that wants resolution, and then it's like, well, what if you're on this like online community where it's like, well, hey, this person, like, they have the like harmonic resonance that creates resolution in this system here. What if we connected you guys? What if y'all just like, you know, and I mean, who knows what will actually happen from that? Like, but I think it would be really cool. And so we're using these technologies to come up with new ways to connect people together based off of their energetic blueprints and just based off of what they're offering and their interests are, versus trying to optimize some sort of engagement algorithm. You know what I mean? Which is something like I could go into like I could spend a whole nother hour talking about like the social media algorithms and the engagement systems, because like the way that they're optimized, like a big like unfortunate side effect of it is because it's more about intention, like immediate gratification. There's these side effects that like where it silos us.
Right.
And so our mission really is to create a paradigm where we use technology to serve humans that begins with human connection and ultimately ends in in-person human connection.
Deeper.
Yeah.
It's like more bandwidth human connection.
Yeah.
Like as we get in person, we discover all these different ways that we relate and all these bridges of connection. And like with us last night around the whole tech side and feeling into like, it just feels really nice to find somebody else who's vibrating on a similar wavelength. And we've known each other for like 3+ years since Arcadia original.
Right.
And yet we didn't actually spend any real time together until yesterday.
Just a handful of times, you know? Yeah, but then the resonance is still so natural and it's just there. It's like immediately felt.
Yes, and so this platform, for example, what you're creating with these in-person experiences can shorten that time from like 1,000 days of us actually being like really amazing friends.
Right.
It can shorten it from 1,000 days to, you know, whatever we choose it to be.
Right. Right. And one of the cool things that like I just kind of see arising out of this too is just there's so many. One of the cool benefits with AI is we're able to develop a lot more quickly than we ever have before.
Did you say CI?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, this is something
collective
that
intelligence.
We should call it collective intelligence, right? Because we want to, this was something Austin came up with, was this idea of like harmonic collective intelligence. And he said those words before I even like thought about harmonic. Now we have this musical algorithm. Like it's so funny like how these things are like just like unfolding them like right before my eyes. But nowadays, now what we have is this ability to develop solutions and technologies like way more quickly than we ever have before. So we can create like an instant feedback loop where we're listening to the community and like online, and create a container of like asking like, what do you actually need that can facilitate your human connection, that can facilitate you being able to meet the client that you need, or to collaborate with another facilitator, or to find the community that like you're meant to be a part of, or to find the business partnership that you want to find, like
or the rite of passage.
The rite of passage,
experiences. The world traveling, like diving into the nectar of this reality, like Soul Fam to go and do life with.
Right. Yeah, like the resource hubs, getting connected with safe access to plant medicine, the
sovereign lands where people are already stewarding such epic visions and can be so lonely because they don't have as many bridges for others to be aware of how they can actually cross-pollinate and co-create.
Yeah. And so there's all these possibilities for all the puzzle pieces to just like kind of come together. And so we have an architecture that we're like building out and designing for people to come together and connect. But again, on this idea of like AI being able to build things really quickly. CI, thank you. I'm going to have to start programming that. Is we can create emergent technology in real time based off of the needs of the community. So instead of me trying to predict what other people are going to need to facilitate a connection, and then we force people into a box, now we can create living agreements and living systems and systems that emerge from what people actually need and want, and that actually serve the heart and human connection. And this is why I'm so excited about CI, collective intelligence, and our ability to leverage that. I mean, and it's like we already have so many ideas. I mean, because there's going to be a base infrastructure, right, to connect it with these things, but we can build and layer these, we're calling micro apps on top of it. And there's even this possibility for like, what if like there's a community hub that has all of the community resources where individuals could post up events, but you also had a CI chatbot that you could talk to that already had access to all of that information. So you just simply type into, it would be like typing into ChatGPT, but specifically for your community. And you can ask like, what events are happening, or like, where can I get this resource, or who do I need to connect to in order to get information about this? Or it's like, hey, I want to build this, like who in the community should I reach out to? And then instantly getting that like information, right? And you can do that so quickly, just like by typing into and asking questions, you know? And you can also we can create these infrastructures where it's like, you want to launch an offering, like you can tell it to your community chatbot, and it'll help you create it and like instantly publish it to your community at large so everyone can see it.
Yeah, and support and co-create.
Yeah.
This is brilliant.
So, and that's only the tip of the iceberg. There's so many possibilities, and that's why like I feel so just excited to build this and really just want to serve people, because there's so many people out there doing so many incredible things. Web 5, decentralized internet development that ensures our data sovereignty. People doing these regenerative land development projects that have really spent years, decades, cultivating connection with these lands and prototyping these new ways for communities to interact with each other where we're not so siloed, and we can still have a relationship with our food, and we can show up for each other. You know, because one of the things, and again on this social media rabbit hole, like psychologically they've done these studies where whenever your perceived worldview of like how many people are in your circle expands beyond like a certain number, I think
Like
it's like
150
150
for the Dunbar number.
Yeah. There's something inside that shuts off, where like this natural thing where we're like concerned about our fellow human, well then once it expands beyond 150 people, it almost becomes overwhelming, and so apparently like subconsciously we turn that off.
Yeah.
And then we get into this survival mode, and so then you're just thinking about yourself and like, how can I further my status, right? So, and that's another side effect of social media, in addition to you know, like something I saw a podcast the other day again, and I'm not an expert on all this stuff, right? I'm just reciting from sources I've seen in other podcasts and my own life path, things that I've garnered. But there's these techniques where you can have, like, social media will show you, it's like it'll give you something very elating and then very like depressing, elating, depressing, elating, depressing, and create this like oscillation, and do that like 6 or 7 times, and then that hijacks the brain. And then at that moment, it's very easy to like inject a specific piece of content that is meant to push some sort of view or steer some sort of direction, or it could be an advertisement, right? And that's why I feel so passionate about this whole idea of sovereignty and like the individual, taking ownership of your attention, is because unfortunately, without that, there's all these other things that want to grab your attention and will just steer it into these not so great areas, right? And on the bright side, it's been so refreshing to just meet more and more and more and more and more people that are showing up to steward these other possibilities of like really just coherent human connection to the land, doing the projects. And that's a part of our mission with just New Earth Collective, is just to help people connect the puzzle pieces. It's just really that simple. It's just like, hey, your two puzzle pieces might fit together. Just see what happens. Check it out, and then can we give you some systems that can help you connect together? And that's what we want to do.
Incredible, bro.
Thanks for all the questions, brother. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Yeah.
This is my highest excitement, I do it unattached, and that's one of the biggest keys that I've learned in life. Thank you, Bashar. Highest excitement to the best of our ability with zero insistence on the outcome. Do it with a positive attitude so we can extract a positive result. Rinse and repeat.
Aho.
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 All right, bro. How do people get in touch with you, man?
You can find me on Instagram, Matti.mycelium. So it's spelled Matti.MICELIUM, because my last name is Miceli, so it just flows really well. Also, you can find me online at MatthewMiceli.com and joinnewearthcollective.com as well.
You guys got newearthcollective.com?
joinnewearthcollective.com.
Oh, join. Don't forget the join New Earth
the
Collective.
join. We have the join.
No way you got that domain.
We're working on it. We'll see. That would be.
It's a collaboration.
It is a collaboration. Bro. Yeah. But yeah, I'm excited. We're rolling out our first event this January, 2026, January 17th, calling it The Emergence, which is just going to be a one-day mini festival where we host workshops and have amazing music, all to just connect people together, bring people into the heart, and just start connecting some of the puzzle pieces. Yeah, and we'll be launching this online system then as well, so people can start to log in, and we'll have that available via our website. So stay tuned for that. Very excited to make that more publicly available. So.
Okay, aho.
Aho.
Thank you, brother. You've been incredible.
Thank you,
all
man.
right, thank you so much for tuning all the way in. You are one of the rare people on this planet. Well, and that's growing, so maybe I won't even say that anymore. Thank you for your attention, your focus, your following one course until success, and thank you for having your heart open and being willing to receive all these new ideas and perspectives and vantage points to hopefully integrate even deeper into your own personal LifeOS, so you can live a more and more fulfilling, expansive, connected, and loving life. Check out more at theascensionproject.org. We got you connected. Thank you so much for your time. Much love, fam.
Much love, guys. And as always, in the words of the great Rick Rubin, take what's helpful and let go of the rest. Really appreciate y'all for having me on this podcast today. If this sparked any insights within you, please share them.
Yes.
Please share them. Let us know what you think. Your voice is totally and utterly welcome.
Not only welcome, it's encouraged. That's literally why we're doing this, is to seed the consciousness. So whoever it is that's emanating or resonating with what we're emanating has the ability. Like, this is our way of putting out the beacon, the same way that Aubrey Marcus did.
Right.
He led with the podcast, with transparency and sharing all of these heart-activated codes, right? And bringing on these epic souls. And so that's my vision here with the Ascension Project, which is not it's we, right? Because when I transmute the me into we, then I can live with fluency. When I realize that you and I are one, then the game, I've actually won.
And now we're just having fun.
Isn't it awesome?
Because it's fundamental. Let's go.
All right, y'all. Peace and love.